The crystalline spires of Zithron Prime's orbital station glimmered like frozen lightning against the black of space. Each surface pulsed faintly with alien biolight, alive with threads of color shifting in slow, deliberate patterns. Inside its cavernous council hall, hundreds of species filled tiered galleries, their voices blending into a low, restless hum. Here, disputes that spanned centuries were judged. Here, empires demanded order. At the center of this storm stood a single human. Admiral Elias Cade, tall and broad-shouldered in a stark black Terran Navy uniform, carried himself with the unyielding composure of a man accustomed to command. His hair, silver at the temples, was cropped close. Dark eyes scanned the chamber without fear, though he could feel the weight of every gaze pressing against him. Humanity's delegation was small, almost insulting compared to the grand entourages surrounding him. Behind him, aides whispered updates, but Cade raised one hand for silence. He had not crossed half the galaxy to listen to his people's resolve diluted into nervous chatter. A booming voice rolled across the chamber, amplified by resonant crystals. Chancellor Xyrix emerged from the upper dais, draped in layered silks that shimmered with iridescent tones. The Zithron leader's elongated skull and gleaming eyes radiated superiority, as if he presided not over equals but over subjects. "Honored counselors," Xyrix began, his mouth curving in what his kind called a smile but humans saw as a sneer. "We gather today to finalize accords with the youngest child of the stars. Humanity has grown ambitious. We must ensure their ambition does not ignite chaos." Polite laughter echoed from several sectors of the gallery. Others hissed approval, scales scraping against stone or wings rustling in sympathy. Cade kept his expression neutral. A slender envoy from the Vaith collective rose, voice like dripping water. "The Terrans expand too quickly. Colonies appear without authorization. Their fleets patrol borders not yet settled." Another, a scaled commander from the Dran Syndicate, added, "They manufacture weapons at an alarming rate. Dangerous for such a fragile species." The accusations came in waves. Too aggressive, too reckless, too unpredictable. Each delegate found a flaw, each painted Earth as a threat. Cade listened, jaw set, hands clasped behind his back. Finally, Xyrix raised a clawed hand. "Which brings us to the matter of peace." His tone carried the softness of velvet hiding steel. "For the safety of all, humanity must agree to limitations. 1. Their fleets shall be reduced by 2/3. 2. Their colonies shall submit to council oversight. 3. Their industries shall accept inspectors to ensure compliance. In return, we offer them protection and guidance." The word protection hung in the air like a blade. Cade let the silence stretch. The chamber watched him, expecting gratitude or compliance. Instead, he took a slow breath, voice deep but calm. "May I ask, Chancellor, who protects us from you?" Murmurs rippled instantly. Xyrix tilted his head, amusement flickering in his luminous eyes. "We protect all, Admiral. That is the purpose of this council." "You protect order," Cade corrected, his tone flat. "Order defined by the oldest species, enforced upon the youngest. Peace through obedience. Survival through surrender." A delegate hissed. "Do not twist words, human." "I don't," Cade replied. "I've seen empires cloak chains in the language of peace before. On Earth, we buried them." For the first time, the vast chamber grew uneasy. Many delegates shifted in their seats. The humans were new, yes, but their defiance unsettled the rhythm of these gatherings. Most species, when faced with united opposition, bent their knees. Xyrix leaned forward, voice sharpened to a cutting edge. "Admiral, humanity has survived scarcely 2 centuries among the stars. You are children with blades, unaware of the wounds you may inflict. We offer you a place at the table before you destroy yourselves." Cade allowed the smallest hint of a smile. "Children, perhaps. But children grow. And unlike many here, humanity has never feared bleeding." The room erupted in noise, jeers, protests, warnings. Cade stood unmoved, letting the storm burn itself out. Inwardly, his mind drifted not to the chamber but to the hidden shipyards orbiting cold moons far from prying sensors. He pictured dark fleets built in silence, waiting. They think us weak because we do not flaunt strength, he thought. That mistake will cost them dearly. When the voices dimmed, Cade spoke again, measured and deliberate. We came here for peace. We hoped for partnership. What we found were terms no sovereign world could accept. Humanity will not dismantle its defenses. Humanity will not place its colonies under foreign control. And humanity will not be inspected like livestock. Gasps echoed. The Zitharon Chancellor narrowed his eyes, his silken garments rippling with a darker hue. Admiral, you tread dangerous ground. Refusal means isolation. It means war. Cade's answer came without hesitation. Better war than slavery. The gallery froze. The words cut through the chamber like a blade across glass. Delegates leaned forward, uncertain if they had heard correctly. Xyrix studied him with a predator's patience. You claim bravery, yet your worlds lie scattered and exposed. You would gamble the survival of your species? Cade stepped forward, shoulders squared, voice carrying the weight of unshakable conviction. We have gambled on survival since the first spark of fire. We gambled when plagues tried to erase us. We gambled when war nearly consumed us. And we endure still. You mistake caution for weakness, Chancellor. You mistake silence for fear. Humanity does not fear you. For a heartbeat, silence blanketed the chamber. The ancient races, rulers of the stars, found themselves staring at one man who did not flinch beneath their collective gaze. Cade's eyes swept the hall once more, locking briefly on each faction. Then he turned back to Xyrix. You do not seek peace. You seek our chains. Humanity does not wear chains. With that, he straightened and folded his hands behind his back, awaiting the uproar he knew would follow. And it came. Voices exploded into shouts, claws slammed against stone, wings beat the air. Some demanded sanctions, others screamed of rebellion, still others whispered with unease. Cade did not move. The tempest swirled around him, but his voice remained steady, quiet, a note of steel cutting through the chaos. This session has shown me all I need to know. Then he fell silent, letting the storm rage on, already preparing for the inevitable decision. The council chamber had not quieted since Admiral Elias Cade's last words. The galleries boiled with outrage, alien tongues clashing in 100 dialects, echoing through the crystalline vault. The air itself vibrated, alive with anger and disbelief. Never had a young race spoken so boldly within these walls. Xyrix remained seated on his dais, claws flexing against the polished armrest. His silken robes shifted hue with his irritation, bleeding crimson across iridescent folds. He waited until the storm of voices thinned, then spoke with practiced authority. Admiral Cade, he said, his amplified voice cutting across the chamber. Perhaps you misunderstood. This council does not negotiate with defiance. Compliance is survival. Refusal is peril. Cade stood motionless at the center, hands behind his back, his gaze fixed on the Chancellor. Then we understand each other perfectly. Murmurs erupted again, sharp as broken glass. A hulking envoy from the Dran Syndicate leaned forward, his scaled jaw gaping. Your fleets are ants before the storm. Defiance will leave your colonies burning. Cade turned his head slightly, his voice even. We have faced storms before. Earth did not survive by bending with every wind. The Dran envoy hissed, slamming his claw against the stone. You risk annihilation. Perhaps, Cade admitted, but better annihilation than servitude. That line spread through the chamber like a shockwave. Some laughed at the arrogance. Others fell silent, unsettled by the conviction beneath his words. A lithe, feathered delegate from the Allard Dominion tilted her head, studying him with golden eyes. Do you mean to tell us, human, that your people would choose war against us all? Cade's answer was measured, deliberate. I mean to tell you that humanity will never choose chains. If the price of dignity is war, then we pay it. The chamber erupted again. Insults and warnings flew across tiers, overlapping in a chorus of disbelief. For most species, survival was worth any compromise. To hear the opposite spoken openly was madness. Through the storm, Xyrix rose, silencing the hall with a gesture. His gleaming eyes locked on Cade. You speak bravely, Admiral. Yet bravery is not strength. Your colonies are scattered, your fleets untested. Do you imagine that your fragile species can withstand the combined weight of this Council's armadas? Cade allowed himself a slow breath. His answer came with no tremor, no hesitation. We don't imagine. We prepare. The words dropped into the silence like iron into water. Whispers rippled through the gallery. The Chancellor's robes darkened again, irritation deepening into anger. Do not posture, Xyrix snapped. We have seen your shipyards. We monitor your production. You lack the scale for resistance. Cade's lips twitched into a faint smile. Perhaps you see less than you think. A ripple of unease passed through several delegations. The Aller representative leaned toward her aide, feathers bristling. The Vaith envoy tapped long fingers against his glassy carapace, calculating. Doubt had crept into the chamber. Xyrix, sensing it, struck hard. Enough riddles. Humanity will accept these accords, or humanity will face sanctions so severe your markets collapse, your colonies starve, your fleets rust and dock. Defiance is suicide. Cade stepped forward, the echo of his boots ringing through the hall. His voice carried clearly, unshaken. What you call suicide, we call freedom. Humanity will not sign your accords. Not now, not ever. A stunned silence held for a moment, then broke into chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, some demanding war, others insisting the humans were bluffing. The chamber became a storm of voices again, deafening and wild. Through it, Cade raised his hand, not to the chamber, but to his aides. The gesture was small, decisive. They rose from their seats. The human delegation began collecting their tablets and cases. The movement drew immediate attention. Xyrix's eyes narrowed. What is this? Cade turned back once more, his expression carved from stone. This is the end of these talks. Humanity withdraws. The words froze the chamber. For centuries, no species had dared such a gesture. Even great powers bent when cornered by the Council. To walk away was unthinkable. Withdraw? Xyrix's voice rose, sharper than glass. You would walk away from the protection of this body? Protection? Cade's voice was iron. We have seen your protection. It is always bought with submission. Humanity does not bargain away its future. The Chancellor's eyes gleamed with fury. You condemn your species. Do you understand the gravity of this choice? Cade met his gaze without a flicker of doubt. Perfectly. With that, he turned and strode toward the chamber doors. His aides followed, faces taut with resolve. The hush of disbelief followed them, broken only by scattered shouts. Arrogant fools! They will beg for mercy before the year ends. Strike now, end their defiance before it spreads. But beneath the fury ran a current of unease. Not all were convinced the humans bluffed. On the raised dais, Xyrix's robes bled black. His voice echoed like a curse. Let them go. Their pride will be their grave. As the massive doors closed behind Cade and his delegation, the chamber erupted once more. Proposals of blockade. Threats of military action. Calls for patience. Panic mingled with arrogance, each faction weighing risk against pride. Inside the shuttle that bore the humans back toward their waiting cruiser, the mood was different. Silence filled the cabin. Aides exchanged anxious glances. Some feared what they had just done. Others felt grim relief. Cade sat at the forward console, watching Zithron Prime shrink against the viewport. His reflection stared back at him, a soldier who had just drawn a line no one thought possible. One aide, younger than the rest, finally spoke. Admiral, what if they come for us? Cade did not turn. His voice was steady, low. Then they'll find more than they expect. The aide frowned. You mean? Cade cut him off with a slight gesture. His gaze remained on the stars. They think us reckless children. They think us unprepared. Let them. It's better they believe it a little longer. Silence returned, heavy but not hopeless. Each of them understood what he implied. Humanity had not come unarmed to this table. As the shuttle locked into the cruiser's hangar, Cade leaned closer to the viewport, eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the planet's glow. "No," he whispered to himself, barely audible. "They will see what we've been building in the dark." The words carried no bravado, only certainty. He knew what lay hidden beyond the Council's sensors, in nebulae and shadowed orbits. He knew the fleets waiting in silence, cloaked from prying eyes. Humanity's gamble had been cast long before today. For the first time since the Council began, a faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. The chamber they had just left was still screaming in outrage, still convinced of its own supremacy. But in Cade's heart, he already knew the truth. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. And that mistake would change everything. The Council chamber did not sleep that night. After humanity's abrupt withdrawal, emergency sessions stretched into dawn. Hollow screens filled the air with charts, maps, and urgent dispatches. Delegates argued, talons scratching, wings beating, mandibles clacking. Fear rode every voice, but none admitted it openly. On the high dais, Chancellor Xyrix sat rigid, robes stained in shifting shades of agitation. His voice thundered across the chamber. "This posturing cannot be tolerated. If we allow the humans to walk away unchecked, others will follow. Defiance spreads like plague." A Dran Syndicate warlord slammed his scaled fist against the table. "Then crush them before the plague takes root. Send fleets to their borders, burn their colonies, make an example." Across from him, the feathered envoy of the Aller Dominion flared her wings in objection. "And if their words were not bluffs? If their strength lies hidden, as the Admiral hinted? Strike blindly and you risk igniting a war we cannot contain." Murmurs swelled. Some demanded immediate punishment. Others urged caution. For the first time in centuries, the chamber wavered. A Vaith collective diplomat tapped his glassy fingers against the crystalline desk. "Intelligence will resolve this. Dispatch observers. Their preparations, if they exist, will be revealed." Reports arrived almost immediately. The Council's probes had already been combing Terran space. Now they brought troubling news. The first dispatch: 3 patrol vessels vanished near the Perseus border. No wreckage, no signals, only silence. The second: a convoy of Zithron scouts, gone without trace. The third: whispers from neutral traders. Human ships appearing where no colonies were charted, bristling with weapons not recorded in Council registries. The chamber grew tense. These were not coincidences. Xyrix dismissed the warnings with a contemptuous wave. "Skirmishes. Nothing more. Humanity has learned guerrilla tricks, nothing beyond our reach." But unease deepened. For every envoy demanding swift retribution, another urged restraint. Fear clung to the air like smoke. Far from Zithron Prime, the truth waited in the dark. In a nebula 3 light-years from Earth, shadows moved. Vast silhouettes stirred against the stellar fog, colossal warships, their hulls black as night, their profiles built for silence rather than spectacle. These were not the lean patrol craft the Council knew of. These were leviathans, bristling with rail cannons, missile silos, and experimental drives. Each bore no insignia, only matte plating designed to swallow light. Command crews moved in hushed coordination, their voices calm but sharp, a contrast to the chaos of the Council. These fleets had been forged not for show but for survival. For decades, while humanity pretended restraint at the Council's table, engineers and laborers across hidden colonies had poured steel, sweat, and blood into preparing for this moment. At the center of it all, Admiral Cade's flagship, Resolute, drifted like a phantom, its stealth systems masking it even from nearby ships. In his command chamber, Cade stood before a star chart, watching Council space glitter with colored markers. Each light represented fleets that could converge on Earth. An officer approached, tablet in hand. "Admiral, confirmation from all sectors. Dark fleets Alpha through Gamma are combat ready. Shipyards report final launches completed." Cade nodded slowly. "And Council probes? Intercepted and destroyed. No survivors. Good." He traced a line across the map with one finger. They still believe we play at war. They believe we lack the will. Let them. Their arrogance is our shield. Back on Zithron Prime, the Council's unease deepened into dread. New reports arrived, trade convoys rerouted without explanation, listening posts silent, merchant vessels whispering of Terran ships too advanced for their supposed technology. The Allur envoy spread her wings in alarm. You all mocked his words, yet their fleets move unseen. I warn you, the humans are not bluffing. Xyrix's voice rose, sharp as glass breaking. Enough fearmongering. This council has stood for millennia. No upstart species can overturn it. Humanity has chosen war? Then war they shall have. And it will be their end. But even as he spoke, doubt flickered in the Chancellor's eyes. He remembered Cade's final words, the calm certainty in them. Humanity does not bluff. The thought gnawed at him like acid. Hours later, alone in his private chambers, Xyrix stared into the void beyond the viewing pane. Zithron Prime's pale sun glimmered against the black, yet he found no comfort in its light. His advisors had withdrawn, leaving only silence. He replayed the memory of Cade's face, the stillness, the conviction, the absence of fear. It had not been the bravado of the weak. It had been the quiet promise of a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. For the first time in centuries, Chancellor Xyrix felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. We should have kept them at the table, he whispered, claws tapping against the glass. Far across the void, aboard the Resolute, Admiral Cade stood among his officers. Outside the viewport, dark hulls stretched in silent formation, thousands of ships waiting for the signal. Humanity had withdrawn from the Council's peace, but not from the galaxy. One of his captains asked quietly, "What now, sir? Do we strike first?" Cade shook his head. His eyes remained fixed on the stars. No. Not yet. Let them come. When they do, the galaxy will see the truth. Not the myth they've told of us. The truth of what we've become. A heavy silence filled the command chamber. No one spoke further. Each man and woman present understood what hung in the balance. Beyond the viewport, the hidden fleet waited, engines dark, weapons armed. Humanity had gambled everything on secrecy, on patience, on the refusal to bend. Now the galaxy trembled, standing at the edge of a revelation. Final line. They thought peace would chain us. Instead, it forged us into something they cannot control.